Hey there, and welcome to my podcast. Today, we're talking about another reason why entrepreneurs fail. Listen, there's only 7 of these, and I'm now giving you the 6th one. So listen carefully. We're just about out of this, and I'm just as sad as you are. We've got this one and one more left, and we are done with the 7 biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make. Today, I'm talking to you about one of the most critical ones, and that is that many entrepreneurs make the mistake of thinking that a new business can be built without substantial effort. Let me tell you, you are never going to be able to build a business without massive, substantial effort. I know that somewhere along the line, you thought that companies like Facebook succeeded because they were great ideas. See, that's just not true. If you think Facebook succeeded because it was a great idea, you don't know the history of Facebook, and you're not understanding what it took to get Facebook to work. See, companies like Facebook, like Tesla, like Microsoft, like Apple, these companies were built on entrepreneurs who worked harder than every single person around them. See, entrepreneurship is not for everyone. And I want you to listen to this episode because if you're thinking about starting a business and you haven't started one yet, listen very carefully to this because I would like to convince most of you listening to this podcast to not start a business. I tell this all the time. Entrepreneurship is a disease. See, what you have to understand is if you want to start a business, you're crazy. There's something wrong with you. Now, let me tell you, it's a disease that I have. And yes, I know there's something wrong with me because I've started 12 different businesses. But for most people, if you're going into business because you think you're going to make more money and you're going to have more freedom, you're wrong. The facts are that business people who go out and start businesses, on average, do not make as much money as their colleagues who continue to work for someone else. And so many times I see people coming to me for business coaching who used to work for someone else and now they're on their own and they're coming to me telling me, Armand, I cannot believe I'm making a fraction of what I used to make, yet I work 3 times as hard. I'm like, yep, I've got the same virus you do. Now, don't get me wrong, as an entrepreneur, you can make incredible things happen and you can have financial freedom and you can have success financially in every other way. And you can have the pride of knowing you built something amazing. You can have the freedom to run your business the way you want. But don't think you're going to have the freedom to lay on a beach somewhere. Certainly not at the beginning and certainly not for a while after you start the business. Right? It's only when you go from being that business operator to being the business owner and you develop the systems and all the other things that I talk about in other episodes of this podcast and in my book, The Business Bible. Once you do all that stuff, certainly after some time, after building a lot of systems, you can make life easy for yourself. And yes, you can make way more money than any employee could ever make. However, I want you to understand the numbers. Most business owners never make as much money as their colleagues who continue to work for someone else. So don't start a business just for the money. It's not worth it. Instead, go do something easy like working for someone else. I mean, I always tell people, I'm like, you want to make a lot of money, you want to have freedom, and you want to take the easy way? Go become a doctor, become a lawyer, become an engineer. And people are like, but Armand, as a doctor, you have to go through all this schooling. And you go through medical school. And then after that, you've got to do your internship and residency. And during your internship and residency, you hardly make any money. I'm like, yeah. See, it's true that as an intern or as a resident, a doctor doesn't make a lot of money. But look, when you're in medical school, first of all, they'll give you loans, very, very low % interest loans that you don't have to pay back for years, even decades. And as an intern or as a resident, you're still getting paid. And people think residents work really long hours. Trust me. The hours that a resident works is nowhere near as long as what some of the entrepreneurs that I know have to work. So the bottom line, and I'm not saying that being a doctor is easy. It's not. It's probably one of the most difficult things you can do on the planet. Studying for the bar. I know my wife is an attorney. It is not easy to study for the bar and pass the bar, especially in a place like, say, California or New York or some of these states that have really difficult bars. However, I want you to understand, studying for the bar, going to med school, being a resident, being an intern, all that stuff is nothing compared to what it takes to be an entrepreneur, because unfortunately, it's not like a path that's already been drawn for you. Now, yes, when you get a book like mine, The Business Bible, I guide you through the process and it's as close to a guide as you're ever going to get. But even that, it's still going to take massive, massive amounts of effort from you and learning on your own, making bad mistakes, making some good decisions, and then figuring out how to change things to make it even better. But what I want you to understand is that it is going to take massive effort from you. So now that you are in business, now that you are an entrepreneur, you are going to have to decide that you're willing to put in the massive effort. And by the way, massive effort doesn't always mean time. See, most entrepreneurs that I know, it's not that they're not putting in enough time. In fact, they put in more time often than they should. What it is, however, and listen to this very carefully, It's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever given on this podcast. Most entrepreneurs make the mistake of not putting in enough effort into certain areas of their business. For example, many entrepreneurs don't want to get involved in the accounting, so they are not willing to take 30 minutes a month to review their financials. And I say 30 minutes, you should take more than that, but at least 30 minutes. But so many entrepreneurs aren't even willing to put in that time. So what they do is they work hard. They work around the clock, 5 days, 6 days, 7 days a week, 12, 14, 16, 18-hour days. However, when you look at certain aspects of their business and you say, yeah, but how many hours did you spend doing this? Typically, the answer is 0 or very, very little, and certainly far less than they have to. So it's different for each type of business owner. Some business owners don't spend enough time looking at their finances. Some don't spend enough time looking at their legal concerns. Some don't spend enough time with their employees. Others don't spend enough time doing sales. Some don't focus enough on marketing, right? So whatever it may be, you've got to identify what are the different areas of the business that you are not putting in enough time into, and you've got to focus there. Now, if you've got my book, there are 10 chapters in this book, and it's these 10 different areas of your business. One simple way of looking at your business is that on a monthly basis, you should be spending time in all 10 of these areas. And that has to do with the strategy behind the business, the marketing, the sales, the operations, financial, legal, all those different things. So make sure that you're putting in enough effort and enough time in all those different areas of business, because what happens is we sort of get this feeling that, look, we've earned this. We've earned the right to pick and choose what we do. But the problem is often we take the weakest areas of our company, the things that we don't like as much and we're not as good at, and we delegate them to other people. But it's not delegation of something that we've mastered or learned or can oversee. Instead, it's putting it on someone else and forgetting about it. And what that does is it puts you in a place where you are guaranteed to fail, because now areas that you're most weak in, the areas that you don't understand as well as you should, are areas that are completely out of your hand, and you put them in someone else's hand. And let me tell you, 9 out of 10 employees aren't going to follow through with something if you don't understand how to check and monitor their work, or at least the results that they're getting. So my advice to you, my friends, is this. Starting a new business comes with substantial effort. Starting a new business may mean you have to say goodbye to those things that you love most, whether it's sleep or it's your freedom on Saturday or Sunday mornings or whatever else it might be for you. Being able to go out and drink on the weekends, if that's what you like to do. You may have to give up a lot of those things if you really want to make this dream come true. And if you are going to make it come true, you're going to have to make sure you're spending time in all the different areas of your business where you're needed. And the parts of the business you're scared of showing up in the most are the parts that you need to show up in. For most of my business coaching clients, this is what I spend most of my time doing. And many of those clients are listening to this podcast. So listen up, my friends. One of the biggest things I need to get across to you is that you have got to spend time in those areas of the business that you don't like to be in. There are people listening to this podcast who don't like to be in sales. You're going to have to spend more time in sales. Some of you, it's finances. In fact, most of you, that's the area you don't like to be in. It could be marketing. Whatever it is, you are going to have to make sure you get in there and you learn it, or hire someone who's good enough to do it, but you have to understand it enough to check the results that they're getting and have key performance indicators on them. So the bottom line for this is that the 6th biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make is thinking that a new business can be built without substantial effort. And I don't want you to make that mistake. So today, I want you to get out there, decide to be an entrepreneur, or go out there and get a job, but don't be in the middle somewhere. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to step up to that level and join the ranks of other entrepreneurs who've started beautiful, amazing companies that have revolutionized industries and changed the world as we know it, let's get out there and let's decide that we're going to step up and work harder than everyone else we know to make this dream a reality. Hey, I love you all. I'm excited that you're joining me in this podcast. I'm excited that I'm hearing all of this amazing feedback coming through about how the Titanium Life podcast is changing your business and is changing your life. This is the stuff that I feed off of. I'm excited. I want to see you go out there and every day lead with your heart. Hey there, and welcome to this episode of my podcast. Today, we are talking about the 6th biggest reason.
Thanks for listening to Titanium Life Radio with Armand Sadeghi here on the Apollo Podcast Network. For more information or to subscribe to this podcast, visit titaniumsuccess.com/podcast.